If you're okay with your daughter growing up to become a shell of a woman and believing that her sole purpose in life is to be acquired by a man, or if you want your son to become a relentless womanizer, or if you think that your child should start growing up and lose their innocence fast, then I suggest you stop listening now, because this is not for you. This is for people who want to understand how the media industry, specifically children's movies aimed at kids, is harming our children and tainting their view of love. I want to discuss the romance in children's movies and its negative consequences. According to Medindia Medical Review Team, they said in today's times, movies and media play a huge role in shaping a child's character, and therefore the content they watch could affect the way in which they perceive the world around them. Our movies aimed at children have too much romance in them. Romantic relations are adult themed in nature, and they should not be aimed towards children. Children who witness this behavior, they start to formulate ideas in their heads. Those ideas should not be put in children's heads. Once again, they're children. They don't need to know about romance. They don't need to know about romantic inclinations or any type of relationship other than the relationship between them and their sibling or them and their parents. They don't need to know about, other romantic interests. A significant portion of the movies that we watch with our children, the family movies, they don't just have romance in them. The entirety of the movie is based around romance. Romance is the actual plot of the movie. The romance standards are passed on into our malleable children, and they get a perverse view of these relationships that could potentially shape their future. More than likely, it would shape them in a negative way. I would like to explain why this is important to me. It's because I'm a father of 2 children, if you can't tell by the way I'm talking about the subject. Potentially, I have a daughter who could end up needing the validation of men to be happy, or a son who could be an entitled narcissist and thinks that women's main purpose in life is to be his servants. I don't want any of these things to happen to my children, nor do I want my child to have their innocence stripped away growing up too fast. I don't think anyone's ever thought back on their childhood and said, wow, that went by way too slow. I wish I could have grown up a lot faster. So I don't want that for my kids. I would like them to remain children as long as possible. I would like them to be immature as long as possible. I want to delay their maturity. I want them to enjoy their childhood while they're still children. I got these main points. I'd like to first address what I'm talking about when I say romance in movies, and my grievances with them. Then I'm gonna give a few examples of different movies that have romance as the plot, or I think would not be a great view to be viewed by children, unless of course there's things discussed by the parents after that. And then I will also lastly discuss the potential consequences, the negative side effects of what happens from people and children when they view this material and they aren't talked about, the unrealistic expectations that they set and things like that. Okay. To me, a kiss shared on screen between a man and a woman, a married couple, is not a grievance that I have. Okay? This is not that. This is 2 children in a movie. I don't like that. I think it portrays that kids can have relationships with other children in a romantic way, and I don't think that's a stereotype or even a trope that we should be portraying in our movies that are aimed at our children. I don't think that they should see that because then they want to emulate that behavior. But no, children who see married couples in movies kissing, I'm not worried about because they will see that at home if they have, 2 parents in a home. But the main issue that bothers me is the gratuitous amounts of romance or the romance as a plot. Many of these films have their roots based in stories that were passed down from generation to generation. One of the most common trope would be the feeble princess in need of saving. Normally, she's in a castle guarded by a dragon. There's a knight who has to rescue her. Her only value to that knight is to be of service to him, is to love him. And in retrospect, she only sees him as an object to, be her saving. That's what his job is to save her. And that's not realistic or good standards by any means. And I have a quote here from talking about this. It's from Zhu Et. He's one of the authors of this article. He said, "This constructed emotional dependency of female characters on male characters in stories of narrative structure is called a Cinderella complex. And in layman's terms, that's just a complex that assumes that women depend on men in the pursuit of a happy and fulfilling life. And I guess we can go ahead and understand why we call it the Cinderella complex, because that is the most common movie that portrays that type of, needy, female is only good for being acquired kind of behavior. There's so many adult themes in just that kids movie alone. We have the fact that she is beaten, abused by her stepmother and her stepsisters. We have the fact that it talks about death because her parents are killed. And the only way that she can get out of this terrible situation and be saved is if she finds love from a man. Once again, that's something that we shouldn't be perpetuating for our sponge-like children. I heard about a movie called The Descendants, and there's I think maybe 4 or 5 of them now, and I thought it was a really awesome movie. It's about these children that are the descendants of well-known Disney characters like villains and princes and princesses. And so you have Maleficent's daughter, you have Beauty and the Beast's son, you have the Wicked Witch, daughter, and anyways, they all go to this school together, and I thought it was a really awesome, kid story. And then I was reading an article on it, and it's by Lisa Davis, and she says, much of The Descendants, for example, centers on the budding love between Maleficent's daughter, Mal, and Sleeping Beauty's son, Ben. He even asks, do you love me, on their very first date. I think that's, points what I'm talking about. It's not good. Well, we shouldn't be making the central theme of children's movies love. Shrek. You have Shrek and Fiona. The entirety of that Shrek plot is Shrek falling in love with Fiona, or trying to get them to love, or are they love? Is it going to work out? Even the brand new kids movie in 2023, Elemental, between a fire being and a water being. So much cool stuff there, but instead they just make it about, can we fall in love? I mean, I have literally an endless list of these movies that the entire plot of them is romance-based, or just, who loves, how can we make this love work? Little Mermaid, Sleeping Beauty, Beauty and the Beast. So I could spend all day listening to movies, but we're gonna go ahead and skip to this. Let's go ahead and talk about this quote by Laura R. She writes for a Love is Respect advocate. She says the iconic Disney princess movies can portray some toxic, unhealthy, and downright abusive ideals about what a romantic relationship should look like. In Caitlin's thesis, she actually talks about how romantic movie media may enforce unrealistic idealized beliefs, one of those being that love is the key to happiness. Once again, it's just to say, differently, that girls, I should say, who watch this think that to be happy when they grow up, they need to find love. That's not a good ideal for children. There's tons of negative consequences to letting your children watch these films. And there's very few positive benefits. I think that all these films should be watched together as a family and talked about afterwards and discussed if you're gonna watch them. Like, what about them you think is good behavior or good kind of thing. But I don't think you should let your children endlessly watch romance films or most Disney movies and just let them come to a conclusion. Like I said, I don't think romance is a good basis for any child's movie. So if you take anything away from that, I hope it is that you talk to your children about movies that you guys watch together. Thank you.